Hello and welcome back to OK Karma, where I share with you some of the best stories that I find online, and as always, they're read to you by an actual human being. Today, we're going to be revisiting everyone's favorite subreddit, Am I the Asshole, and starting with Not Creative 8080's story titled, Am I the Asshole for leaving my husband to walk 2 miles home after he refused to get back in my car after leaving an MRI? And it says, my husband is claustrophobic. We've been married 18 years, together for 22. He needs a brain MRI due to vision issues, but has been unable to complete one due to claustrophobia. We tried anxiety meds twice, and he left both times. After 8 months of trying to schedule a sedation MRI, we were finally able to get him in this morning. He has to get dental work sedated as well. The MRI team agreed to use the same medication that his dentist uses, and I explained that, and he agreed. When the MRI team started describing the medication and that he may be awake, just sleepy, he refused, and they called me to come pick him up. We take care of his grandma, and I was over there getting her ready for a quick appointment. As soon as they called, I left to travel the 3 miles to go get him. It took me about 10 minutes, and when I got there, he was nowhere to be found. I had his phone and his wallet, so I drove around looking for him. He had not been sedated, so he was sober. I found him about half a mile away walking, and he was pissed and started yelling. I yelled back because I was scared. I didn't know where he was, and I was frustrated from trying to schedule this important MRI for months. So he slammed the door and got back out. I drove around the corner to tell him to get back in, but I also have to get grandma to her appointment. He wouldn't get in, so I tried one more time and I left. We were about 2 miles from home and he walked home. I got grandma to her appointment. Grandma's appointment was a hair appointment. She goes every week, but this was the long one for the cut and color. I just dropped her off and went back home, and we got into a huge fight. He said that I lied about the sedation and abandoned him. He said I should have kept circling around and came back. Am I the asshole for leaving him to walk home and getting grandma to her appointment? Paralandra native in the comments says, is this your husband or child? He needs to be taking care of himself. It's ridiculous that he's blaming you for anything. 45 years old and acting like a 6-year-old. Unbelievable. You're the asshole to yourself for letting him treat you this way. Tell him it's time he starts acting like the full adult that he's being taxed as. You need some self-respect and stop holding his hand when he keeps biting you. Winter Moon 47 also says you're doing too much for him. Start instead planning on life for yourself when his disabilities become worse and a daily problem. Start looking at nursing homes. Start planning for a single income living situation. Start considering the possibility that he may need to be placed in a mental health hold to get proper testing. This level of irrational may be brought on by other mental health impairments such as a brain tumor, MS, or potentially a type of early onset dementia. He needs to be checked out and you need to throw down the gauntlet. This is either your life or it won't be your life. In Serious Tax 4804 says, there seems to be more to it according to the original post. Same medication that his dentist uses, so he's familiar with the effects. He agreed. He left the office and wandered off on his own. He became angry at his wife for no fault of hers. She did all the work to find a solution for his condition. She attempted to get him back to the car for the ride home, and she was busy attending to his mother. Yet he blames her for everything. If this is a single occurrence, some compassion is warranted, as it may be related to his blurry vision, suggesting a deeper medical issue. Even so, not the asshole. If he acts like this every time something doesn't go his way, then he's a dick. And yeah, I definitely think I agree with the comments here. Now, I do feel for the guy if he is severely claustrophobic or obviously dealing with other mental health stuff, but at his age, you would hope at least he would be more open to getting some help from his wife or from a professional to help get this resolved and maybe not throwing a tantrum the way that he did. Our next story comes from Salt Reply 735 and is titled, Am I the Asshole for using my grandma's china as my everyday food holders and not waiting for tea with King Charles? And it says, I was the last kid to leave home. I was an oops kid, and my older brother and sister were in high school when I was born. After I finished university, I asked my parents if I could stay at home to save up. They agreed, so long as I paid for my own expenses and contributed $300 a month for food and utilities. Good deal for me. I then fell in love with a friend's neighborhood of little houses. I found one for sale and I grabbed it. My parents downsized immediately to make sure that none of us could ever move back. Okay, that's facetious. They are retired and we're tired of Midwest winters. My brother and sister are both married with children. My folks supported me and helped me get established in my career. I love them and I'm super thankful for everything they did for myself and for my siblings. I asked them if they could please put my china cabinet, china, and cutlery into storage with their stuff. They said they weren't going to get storage and were getting rid of everything that they weren't going to use or store in their new place in Arizona. I asked if they could store the stuff for me, and they said no. I got a couple of friends and we moved into my new house. My house was built when the railroad was a bigger deal. They built entire neighborhoods for their workers, tiny little houses with decent sized yards for gardens or kids. So think like 600 square feet, no basement, and it still has a clothesline. A couple of months after I moved in, I had a housewarming party. I had exactly 4 of everything from IKEA, plus 1 pot, 1 pan, and an air fryer. So I used my fancy plates. My friends aren't children, so none of them got damaged. Afterwards, I realized that I had stuff like serving trays and gravy boats, everything that an adult needs to adult, regarding food service anyway. So I just use them all the time, mostly when I have people over, but also when I have not done dishes and I want to not eat out of takeout containers over the sink. I was FaceTiming with my folks and eating, and they noticed that I was eating off a Royal Wedgwood's Precious Moments plate using Ming Dynasty Imperial silverware. I may have some terms wrong here, but you get the point. Mom asked me why I was using that plate and fork to eat. She said it was only for special occasions, that it was an heirloom meant to be cherished and protected for generations. Not exaggerating. That's what she said. I told them that they were my plates and I would use them however I wanted. They got very upset and hung up. And then I got calls from my brother and sister, both admitting that they only called because my mom told them to. They said to do whatever I wanted. They said they weren't huge fans of fancy china, but that mom had insisted it go on their registries. We had a big laugh, and I promised to tell my mom that they told me to save my nice stuff for a royal visit. My mom actually ordered me an 8-person set of cheap china to use every day. I thanked her, and I'm using that instead. Unless I want to feel fancy. Don't tell my mom. Scam is not art in the comments says, not the asshole. Every day above ground is a special occasion. BG3 Restart says, not the asshole. My husband died suddenly in his early 50s. At that point, I stopped keeping things for, quote, best because I felt that the best had already gone. I took the posh cutlery we only used at Christmas out of its wooden canteen and put it in the kitchen drawer where it gets used every day. I took the glasses we'd had as wedding gifts 30 years earlier but never used out of their boxes and poured myself a glass of wine. The expensive china I'd been collecting since my 21st birthday but didn't use because I didn't have enough of every piece for a dinner party, I gave to a local tea room that serves afternoon tea to tourists, along with my mother and my mother-in-law's china that I'd inherited. So now thousands of people get to enjoy it. All of these things were designed and made to be used. They're living their best life now. I've liberated them from a narrow life in a cupboard. And Dealer Alarm 3632 also says, not the asshole. I have a fountain pen collection. Some are extremely expensive. They don't stay in the box. I use them to write with. They're pens. You write with pens. You use cups and plates and saucers. Every day is a special enough occasion. And our last story is titled, Am I the Asshole for Telling My Stepdad That My Mom's Recovery Doesn't Mean Anything to Me? From Needed a Throwaway. And it says, my mom, 55-year-old female, is a former addict, clean for almost 15 years. I, 21 male, lived with my grandparents from the age of 3 months to 18 when I went to college. I was removed by CPS, she did 7 years in jail, and we never really had a relationship. I don't view her as my mother, and I never have because she didn't raise me and she was stripped of parental rights in the court of law. My mom's husband, my stepdad, is hosting a huge party for my mom's 15th sobriety anniversary, and I have prior plans, so I'm not going to be going. No one in my family's going to go. My grandparents have plans, my aunt and her husband made plans, both of my uncles and their wives made plans, and all of my cousins have plans also. My mom turned her life around, married well, and is by all accounts a changed woman, but it's kind of too late for any relationships. Too much has happened for me to be proud of her, and we're not at a place where I'd ever want to celebrate her. When I got the paper invitation in the mail, I texted my stepdad to let him know that I wouldn't be going. I let him know that I had prior plans and that I'd hoped he'd have a good time. He immediately asked me what was so important that I had to skip my mom's party, and instead of telling him that I was going to be out of town, I said, quote, myself. I should have left it at that, but he came for me pretty aggressively, and so I kept going. I said, quote, Steve, the day won't ever come where I celebrate an addict, and I won't ever be proud of Stacy, my mom. You met her after she'd changed. My life with her in active addiction was hell. It's all fine and good that she's been clean for 15 years, but the matter of fact is that I'm not proud of her and I never will be. I don't feel anything for her, and having her in my life has been an unimaginable burden. Her recovery, her life, and who she is as a person doesn't matter to me. I don't include her in any of my major life events, and there's a reason for that. If you want to lash out against someone, I'd suggest you take it up with the courts that stripped her parental rights and imprisoned her. Have a great long weekend. He messaged me back to tell me that all of my mom's friends would be there and that it would be great if I could show up and present a united front. And I said, quote, "Because I'm not an addict, I'm going to Mexico to enjoy myself for my last spring break. Good luck with your party, and you won't see me there." He messaged me back to tell me that I'm a jerk and that I'm letting down my mom when she's celebrating a huge milestone. And I told him that he should ask her NA sponsor why it's bad to push an addict's victims for presence or forgiveness. Steve told me that I'm an asshole for dehumanizing her. I told him that she had made her choices just as I was making mine. Am I the asshole? Humble26274 in the comments says, it also sounds like there was no effort on her part to take interest or try to build a relationship in the last 15 years that she's been sober and presumably free of incarceration. But you're supposed to cancel your plans to celebrate her achievements? Edit to add, not the asshole. Reduce the Debt says also, not the asshole. As a 35 plus year sober person, I don't, quote, celebrate my anniversaries and don't expect anyone to throw a party for me either. It sounds narcissistic to me to have such a celebration. Have a great time in Mexico. And Jen says, former addict here as well. I've been clean for going on 13 years. I have an 18-year-old daughter who was put through absolute hell because of my choices. I reached out several years ago to try to make amends, but I left it at that. I apologized to her for all the hurt that I caused, but made it very clear that she drives the bus. If she didn't want a relationship, that is well within her rights. If she didn't want to forgive me, that's well within her rights. It's taken several years and hundreds of uncomfortable conversations and heart-to-hearts, but we're finally in a good place. And even now, I've made it very clear that at any point, if she changes her mind and never wants to hear from me again, that I would respect that. She was the innocent bystander dealing with my active train wreck at a very young age. There will never be a time that I'm not actively making amends and doing what I can to heal the trauma that I caused. She doesn't owe me anything, but I owe her the world. You don't owe your mother anything. You owe your stepfather even less. If you don't want to celebrate her sobriety, that's okay, and you don't have to. If it comes down to it, block him, her, them. You owe them nothing. You owe yourself peace and happiness. Man, that last one was heavy, but it's a tricky conversation. And obviously everyone's experiences are different. I definitely don't think the original poster's the asshole in any way in that situation. I mean, they went most of their lives without this person. So they weren't ever able to build that relationship. And it really is just like a stranger to them at the end of the day. So as an adult person, if they decide they don't want to go to this party, that's completely fine and should be completely fine. I don't know. What do you guys think? Well, let me know down below. And as always, thank you guys so much for listening in. If you enjoyed my readings of these stories, please make sure to like the video, consider subscribing to the channel, and feel free to share any of your own Am I the Asshole stories in the comments as well.